Well, if you look up heartbreaker in the old dictionary, if that thing still exists, or I guess everything's online now, but if they have pictures next to words in the dictionary and you look up heartbreaker, it would show a video of the end of this game. This game was brutal. It was a game that you got to commend the Warriors. It wasn't for a lack of effort, but role players thrive when they're at home, and Dallas's role players came through. And the Warriors, unfortunately, blew an opportunity to gain the playoff standings. Ryan, Leong, and I are going to break it all down next. What a heartbreaker, brother. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. It's where we're exclusively live. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can follow Ryan Leong on Twitter at his name. It's super easy. He works for the Associated Press Radio among many media organizations. He's got a podcast. He's coming to us live from a bar tonight. He's dressed all is spiffed out. You're looking good, brother. Follow him on Twitter at Ryan Leong. You can follow me, Cyrus, on Threads at Dogwild. Ryan, that was a brutal loss in a game where the Warriors led at the end of the first quarter. They led at the end of the half. It was, I believe, their 45th clutch game of the year. They're now 22 and 23 in those games. And on a night where they could have made up a lot of ground, they could have picked up a game on the Pelicans. They could have picked up a game on the Sacramento Kings, but instead, despite the valiant effort, 108-106 the final, they lose at the buzzer. How are you doing, Ryan? Your immediate reaction to that heartbreaking loss?
Yeah, I mean, the Warriors played tough, but, in the end, they couldn't get a key stop. Steph gets called for that, having his heel on the semicircle, right? Which he did. That's a legit call. So it's correct.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, though. Can you elaborate on what happened there? Because Stephen Curry's heel was not touching the line of the restricted area, right? But it
was touching, and then he lifted his foot off. But he's basically got his foot on the restricted area. So there's that semicircle where you're supposed to keep that area clear as a defender, and if you don't, then I guess you get called for a blocking foul. As I recall.
Yeah. They call. Well, that was the original call. It was a block. The Warriors challenged it. This was with, I believe, less than a minute to go, somewhere in that range. And Stephen Curry, it would have been a good call. If they called it a charge and they overturned it, that would have been correct, except for the fact that Stephen Curry's, I believe, his right heel was hovering over the restricted area's line.
Right.
And apparently the restricted area has this invisible dimension where everything just moves up above that, kind of like in football.
Yeah, like a plane.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, like a plane. Like when you're trying to score a touchdown, if you break the plane, same idea applies here. I think that's a legit call. Totally legit.
Yeah.
I think the Warriors can't complain about that.
But I don't think people knew until this game, in that moment, that the restricted area serves that purpose, right? I didn't know that until
I knew that. Basically, that's why they put the lines there. You can't be blocking that lane no matter in any way, shape, or form.
Well, right, but
outside of it.
But with any other play, out of bounds does not have that plane, right? Like you can hold the ball over out of bounds as long as the ball doesn't actually touch the floor. But with the restricted area, that's different. Apparently, there is an invisible plane where
right. But I think what I saw on the replay, Steph's foot was on the floor, and then he lifted it off.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I thought he did lift it off, but I thought it wasn't touching when the contact was made. So I thought he was clear there, but according to the refs, whatever, man. That call. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm probably going to make the viewers mad here, but I think the refs got that call right. So
yeah,
but it comes down to where's the defense on PJ Washington? That guy's wide open. You and I could have made get that little tip, that little putback layup or whatever. He's right there. There's no defense. Come on.
Yeah, and look, the Warriors defense did do okay. They held the Mavericks to 108 tonight, but at the same time, this was a night when Luka Doncic was out. And that's one of the many reasons why, in my humble opinion, man, this was, even though Rick Barry hates that I say humble opinion, I'm going to work that out in my verbiage. But the bottom line is the Warriors had a chance to gain ground. the Warriors led this game at the half. And when the other team, I know the Warriors did not have Kuminga. They didn't have Andrew Wiggins. So they were incredibly shorthanded there. And we're going to get into this clearly, but still just squandered opportunity, man. I mean, when you look back on the season, like if this season ends in worst case scenario, in a calamitous manner, where they lose, let's say, like the first playing game and they're a 9 or 10 seed, games like this are what's going to stick out, because you could have literally put yourself in a position to potentially not even be a play-in. Brandon Pajemski said something interesting in the halftime interview, because usually Warriors players interviewed at the half on the local broadcast, and he was interviewed and he revealed that the team's focus was the number 6 seed. I don't know if it still is after tonight. We'll break down the standings in just a moment. He also said another interesting thing, which is that the position he feels most comfortable playing is the point guard position, and how he's played that position the last 3-4 years. There was a question that led into that answer, pertaining to why he was playing. Maybe I forgot what led to that answer, but it's interesting because the Warriors, again, they play a lot of position-less basketball. You see Pajemski, playing power forward sometimes, shooting guard. But he revealed tonight that he likes playing point guard. That's the position that he's most comfortable with. But going back to his first answer regarding the 6 seed, it's not looking that good right now. You brought up PJ Washington, Ryan, and this was an example of when role players thrive when they're at home, right? Because PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, who is just a complete menace tonight. I mean, when it comes to rebounding, when it came to block shots, I mean, the Warriors had a really hard time with him. He had 3 blocks in this game tonight. But guys like PJ Washington, that's where the home crowd makes a difference, right? I mean, would you agree with that? I mean, and just to read off PJ Washington's line, 12 of 18 from the field, 5 of 8 from 3, 32 points on the night. He also had 5 steals and 5 rebounds. Any thoughts on what I just said, Ryan? Who is apparently not there now. You're muted.
No, I had my mute on. So
there you go. Go ahead.
When you see PJ Washington the way he played, he reminded me a lot of who was that great power forward? Kevin, I'm drawing a blank, from the Hawks.
Who currently plays for the Hawks?
No, years ago. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, I'll remember in a second here. But he was a great power forward, and so. But also when you look at the way Kevin Durant plays, right? It reminds me of that too. And that's the kind of player that the Warriors don't have when you have a strong power. Kevin Willis. That's who it is.
Yeah. That's an old school reference, bro.
Oh, but seriously, Kevin Willis in his prime played the way PJ Washington played tonight. Power forward who could get in the paint and get things done. And PJ Washington came up big when he needed to.
Yeah, PJ. I don't remember Kevin Willis ever hitting outside shots though, but besides that,
but he was a good power forward though.
You're absolutely correct. Yeah. But when we come back, Ryan, I want to talk about, there were certain things that stuck out to me in this game. And when the Warriors went into the half with a 54-52 lead, it was incredible. I mean, they were playing gutsy ball. They were playing gritty ball. And I thought the first half of this game was one of the best halves of basketball the Warriors have played all year, which is why for them to lose this game stings that much more.
Yeah.
But what I saw the Warriors do to start the third quarter, it was just more of the same, man. Every time I start regaining belief in Steve Kerr and thinking to myself, wow, like he's finally figuring out what's going on with his own team. And he's finally realizing that, you need size. Like we're seeing Trace Jackson Davis start games recently. I saw Steve Kerr challenge a call early second quarter, and it was like an out of bounds call that was originally called out of bounds on Kevon Looney. And then they challenged it, and we never saw this kind of these sorts of actions earlier in the season from Steve Kerr. Every time I start getting sucked in, every time I start believing, wow, okay, so Kerr's back in terms of grasping, the modern game and what's plaguing this team. Then we see what he does in the third quarter, and in a game where you lose by 2 points, trivial little things do make a colossal difference. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that and so much more. Ryan, real quick, tell everyone where you're at, dude. Give your friends bar some love because you're coming to us live on a Friday night. Happy Friday night, everyone.
Yeah, of course.
From a friend's drinking establishment in the city of San Francisco.
Yeah, my friend Frankie Chewy's bar, 1920 bar. It's on the corner of Clement and 19th Avenue in the outer Richmond district. So come on by. He's got a great bar. He's got a bunch of TVs. I happen to be out at the Giants game, and so we're gonna have something to eat in a little bit. But I said, hey, I gotta do my podcast. I gotta meet with Cyrus, so we're doing it here at his bar. So
Thanks.
Great bar in the inner Richmond. It's again, he's got pool table and he's got some cool, yeah. See, there's a pool table there. See, so yeah, if you're looking for a cool place to watch sports, it's not too crazy because a lot of sports bars, people, think it's too loud and rowdy and whatnot. But this is a cool, nice, chill place. This is Frankie, the owner.
Oh, there you go. Congratulations on your establishment. Look at you.
4 points down.
See, there you go. See, yeah, see.
There you go. And it's one of my favorite parts of San Francisco. So bravo. I love the Richmond.
Yes.
We'll have a lot more. And again, we got to talk about what happened at the start of the third quarter that, in my humble opinion, man, and I hate to say, I got to stop saying that, but from my perspective, it's what made the difference in this game. We'll talk about that and so much more after we give some love first to our beautiful, amazing sponsors. And first up on the agenda, Robinhood, which is all about your financial success. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal information. Claim as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker dealer.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? And do you find yourself having to turn down the volume with all the shouting on their talk shows? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And you can follow Ryan Leong. He's a reporter for AP News Radio, among many media organizations, on Twitter at Ryan Leong. Again, you can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, over on Threads at Dog Wild. Ryan, I use the term geriatric hobbits because that's the type of player that Steve Kerr continually relies on to lose games for him. The Warriors are the shortest team in the NBA with an average height of 6'5". That's no secret. But they don't have to always play small. This is a team that has a lot of talented mid-sized players, a lot of great wings, even without Wiggins and without Jonathan Kuminga tonight. The Warriors went with Moses Moody as a starter. They didn't have a great start to the game, but regardless, at least by replacing Andrew Wiggins with Moses Moody, you still have some size. Your defense is far more effective and efficient. But then what does Steve Kerr do? At the start of the third quarter, he goes with a lineup that has my now least favorite backcourt every time I see it, and that's Stephen Curry and Chris Paul. Those two players should be having their minutes staggered. Every time those two players are on the floor together, I guarantee you every opposing team is salivating looking at that ridiculously easy defensive matchup because you don't have to worry about your shot being blocked. You're almost guaranteed, if that matchup is on you, to get great positioning and an easy shot if you're close range. You're guaranteed to not get your shot blocked if you're long range. And what happened in the start of the third quarter, the Warriors had a 54-52 lead. That lead turned into a 63-58 deficit in under 4 minutes. And then finally a substitution was made, but the damage was done. And in a game where you're losing by 2 points, I don't understand why Steve Kerr keeps going to a backcourt with a 38 and 36-year-old whose average height is 6'1" and change. Make that make sense to me, Ryan, please, because it's driving me insane. You're muted.
I wish I had a better answer for you on that. I don't know what it is, but the longer Kerr coaches, the more he seems to rely on his older guys. I don't know why that is. If he's just feeling like he feels like they've earned their minutes, which obviously, of course, they're great players. I mean, Chris Paul is arguably a future Hall of Famer. Steph Curry is a future Hall of Famer. But, yeah, I mean, you got to go with the guys that can produce for you. I mean, as you mentioned, when you have guys that are combined for – what is that? If you add the two ages together, what do you get there? Like the 70s, low 70s? I mean, that's too old. I mean, you got to have guys in there that are a little younger. I mean, you're right. Both guys can still be productive, but having both guys on the floor almost reminds me of when Monte Ellis made the criticism about Steph Curry in his rookie year that he couldn't play with him at the same time. Maybe Monte was onto something because it's kind of evident with Chris Paul and Steph.
And and again, they had an opportunity to trade Chris Paul at the deadline. They chose not to. That's great. That's fine. He's actually, I don't mind him at all. I think he's actually a great pickup for the Warriors, largely in the sense of how he's mentoring and helping to develop and coach the young players. I don't think it's a coincidence that guys like Kuminga, Podziemski, Trace Jackson-Davis, Moses Moody, I don't think these young players, that it's a coincidence that we're seeing this significant rise from them, either as rookies or third-year players this year. Chris Paul has a positive impact in that regard. But again, defense, when you're talking about defense, and especially the perimeter defense, having those two out there, it doesn't work. It does not work. And when you see the Warriors having a good, successful run, like case in point, the 6-game winning streak that was just snapped, you did not see those two playing that often together. And that just stuck out to me. I know they were shorthanded, but you had guys like Podziemski playing great ball tonight. Even though Moses Moody, I know the net rating didn't look good, and it didn't look good for Trace Jackson-Davis either. Largely, their net rating, Moses Moody was -23 today, Trace Jackson-Davis -26, but most of that was the first quarter because they fell into such a deep hole early on. The Mavericks started this game leading. They took a 29-13 lead to start the game, and those two were in for a lot of that, and that's where the net rating comes from. So, but regardless, man, I mean, you had other players out there. Their five-man lineup to close the game. I don't know what your thoughts are of this, but it was Steph, Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, who had a great game tonight, I thought, and then Gary Payton II, who actually played good ball. But again, that is such a tiny lineup, man. You're not scaring anyone with that. Your thought?
Right. No, I agree with you. I mean, and I did watch the first quarter too, and I thought the Warriors weren't even going to crack 20 points, which they didn't for the longest time. And then, lo and behold, somehow, they do manage to get 32 points. How the heck did they manage that? Because for the longest time, they didn't have any points in that quarter. I mean, right? I mean, all of a sudden they had 20, then they ended up with 32 points. And yet, what hurt them in this game, too, is they had two consecutive quarters scoring 22 points each in the second and third quarter. That didn't help them either. So, the fact that they got to 106 points is kind of miraculous. I mean, but yeah, you got to get better production. And when you look at, you finally get a chance to have Moses Moody start, and you wanted him to get extra minutes, and he did. But, to have 26 minutes and have a -23 rating is terrible on the plus-minus. That's really, really bad.
No doubt. But it's also why, like, sometimes – net rating is something that, it's a very subjective stat when you look at it from an individual game, for example, but it's not a good look either. I'm not sitting here defending it. Ryan, when we come back, I want to ask you about the end of the game. I thought it was a little sus. And what I mean by that is I don't know if I was coaching this team, if I would have gone with the decisions that they made. And I don't know if the decisions were from Kerr. I don't know if it was a spontaneous decision on Steph's part to go for that 2-point basket near the end instead of holding it for the win. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on how that game transpired, including the very last possession where Stephen Curry unfortunately fumbled the ball in the inbound, and the ball ended up in Klay Thompson's hands. I don't know if that was the intention. We'll get into that a little more because I don't know if that was the right way to go, and I'd love to know what your thoughts are on that. Let's give some love, though, to our other sponsors for the evening as we wrap it up on a Friday night, a disappointing Friday night, a chance for the Warriors to catch up on numerous teams in the playoff standings that unfortunately did not actually transpire. First up on the agenda for our amazing sponsors, and that is Amazon Fire TV. Ryan, do you have a Fire TV?
I do not. I have YouTube TV, actually.
No, but is your TV itself is a YouTube TV?
No, I actually have a Roku.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, so that's what I was talking about. So a Fire TV, I have a Fire TV. You can also plug in the Amazon stick into the USB. Fire TV is your destination for sports, whether it's live games, highlights, in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels lets you dive in to all of the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep you up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, whether it's March Madness, NBA, Major League Baseball, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. And if you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. I'm a Fire TV owner. To learn more, visit Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. And today's episode is also brought to you by Nissan. Amazing cars. I'm a former owner of a Nissan Pathfinder. Let me find that overlay so we can get the proper attention. There we go. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Have you ever wondered what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Class exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone, Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. And my former baby, the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder, mine was on a 2024, but regardless, has room for up to 8, an expansive cargo capacity, and advanced available 4x4 capability with 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds towing. When adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. So take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
One final segment of Locked On Warriors. Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. For the everydayers, we're back at it on Sunday as the season wraps up. We only got 5 games remaining, which is wild. That's absolutely insane. The Warriors play the Utah Jazz this Sunday, and we'll be coming to you live right after that. Tip-off is 5:30, so at the absolute latest, come join the party. Let's hope it's a party. They better beat the Utah Jazz. Ryan, people can find you on Twitter at Ryan Leong. What were your thoughts on the final possession or the final couple possessions of the game? The Warriors had a chance, just to recap real fast, the Warriors had a chance to basically shoot for the win. And Stephen Curry instead opted to go for a baseline jumper, made the easy 2, tied the game up. Dallas has the ball. They I mean, I don't know what defense.
Easy, too easy.
There. That was a ridiculously easy
super easy.
And then came the final possession. Brian, take it away, man. What were your thoughts on that? And describe to the audience your interpretation of that final possession.
Okay, I'll go back a little bit. So I'll go back to Clay's shot. I was a little surprised that he took a baseline jumper because although, as somebody just pointed out in the comments, I mean, Steph and Clay tonight combined to go 7 of 22 from 3. That's awful.
Yeah.
So 5 of 14 for Steph, not bad. I mean, I'm surprised that he didn't go for a 3 because considering he went on that 1-3 earlier where he hit that one from way up top of the key. And I'm surprised Bob Fitzgerald, who I think is a premier homer, was very understated on the call. I was really surprised. I'll give him credit. He was very, very understated because that was a big shot. That tied the game up, right? I mean, that was huge.
And this is the one you're referring to. It was 13 seconds left, and there was Stephen Curry making the 17-foot baseline jumper, right? It made it 106 piece.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm surprised. He didn't try to shoot something a little further out because he's got better range than that. But yeah, I saw that. I knew it was going to set it up for another shot that the Mavs were going to make, which they did. I didn't think it was going to be that easy of a shot, but it was. And then on the last play, I get how Chris Paul gets the ball. The ball should have come right back to Steph. When I saw it go to Clay, I was like, this game's over. They're going to lose. And he made the shot. and the shot was terrible. I mean, it barely hit front iron.
Yeah.
Barely. I mean, it almost was an air ball.
It was very disappointing.
It was horrible. That was a weak shot, man. It was weak. Weak with a capital W.
Steve Kerr is masterful when calling plays out of timeouts, right? I mean, there's no disputing that.
Yeah.
He's overall, I'm never going to complain about his offensive system. It's brilliant, right? And his play calling out of timeouts are brilliant. What do you think that was supposed to be? Like, do you think, in your opinion, was Klay Thompson supposed to be the shooter on that play, or do you think?
I don't think he was. I don't think he was. I think what ended up happening is I think like you said, there was a little bit of a confusion there. They lost some time. Steph's dribbling the ball. He passes it to Chris Paul. Next thing you know, Chris Paul's looking for the open guy who happens to be Klay. And Klay's like, oops, I got to shoot the ball. But I don't think they planned it out as well as they thought. But the ball should have come back to Steph. I'm sorry. I love Klay Thompson. But Klay reminds me a lot of Monte Ellis. And here's what I mean by that. Monte was a good player, but I don't think he was a clutch shooter. Okay? So when the game's on the line, Klay shouldn't have the ball. I'm sorry. I don't trust him as much as I do Steph Curry. You can live and die with Steph missing a game-winning shot, right? Can you live and die with Klay making the game-winning shot?
I mean, Klay made a game winner earlier this year, didn't he? I think he beat the Kings. Was that the game? I'm trying to remember, but
okay, maybe. But let's put it this way.
It's a hot take, man. It's all. How
many more times are you going to see Steph beat somebody though over the Klay? Who would you rather have?
Ryan, just to make it clear, you're saying that Klay Thompson is the modern day equivalent of Monte Ellis?
No, in the sense of like, if you're going to give somebody the ball, who would you rather have the ball in the hands of? Klay or Steph?
Oh, Steph, all day.
There you go.
No doubt about that. No doubt.
When I say it reminds me of Monte Ellis, that's what I'm talking about. Monte was a good player. He made his share of game-winning shots too, but he's not the guy that you want with the ball in his hand with less than a second to go.
Yeah, that's a hot take, man. I haven't put that much thought into it. So who would you, if it's not Steph, who's the number 2 guy in the Warriors that you want taking that shot? Because apparently you don't want Klay taking that shot. I haven't really put much thought into that, and I'll refer to the chat. If
you know what? I know. Okay. Maybe it's a bit of a hot take here too. I'd rather have Brandon Podziemski have the ball in his hand than Klay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Okay.
All right. I know. I know. Hey, I'm not saying Klay's not a good player. Obviously, he has been. But come on, we're talking about again youth movement, right? You got to go younger. I say Brandon's the guy you got to give the ball to. Maybe even Moses Moody. Come on, hey, somebody else.
Regardless, it didn't work, right? I mean, so at least for tonight, I can't argue with you there.
But when you're in a clutch situation like the Warriors are, and they've got to win these games, live and die with Steph. Okay, Steph should have taken the shot.
I mean, Steph again. He bumbled the inbounds, which was unfortunate. Like,
and then he was dribbling the ball on top of that. And he dribbled for a couple seconds.
It just the moment that happened, you kind of knew it was over.
Yep, I agree. Oh no, the moment it went to Chris Paul's hands, I'm like, you don't want him taking the shot. You definitely don't want him taking the shot.
Yeah. And real fast, just to go back to the stats for the night. Again, Stephen Curry was, like you mentioned, neither of the Splash Brothers coming less than 24 hours or just about 24 hours from a great night from those two. They couldn't replicate it. Stephen Curry, as you mentioned, 5 of 14 from beyond the arc, 9 of 23 from the field, 28 points on the night. So he got his points, but and he also added 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Klay Thompson played 33 minutes in this game. Steph played 35, and Klay was 7 of 17 from the field, 2 of 8 from beyond the arc. Yeah, he looked so good just the game before, man. It's unfortunate that he couldn't replicate the success from a game before. So looking at the standings right now, this is where it really hurts, man, because the Pelicans lost, the Kings lost on a last-second shot from if what I read was correct. Xavier Tillman hit a game winner, I believe, for the Celtics. So the Kings lose that game. The Warriors have a chance to gain ground, and instead they lose themselves. So what we have right now is the Lakers and the Kings are tied for the 8th seed right now. Mm-hmm. They both have identical 44 and 33 records. The New Orleans Pelicans are a game above those two for the 7th seed. They're 45 and 32. The Mavericks winning this game was huge for them to avoid the play-in because they now hold a 2-game lead over the Pelicans, a 1.5-game lead over the Suns for the 6th seed. And then the Warriors right now trail the Lakers by 2 games in the loss column. What particularly hurts to me for this game was the Warriors had control of their own destiny in terms of at least finishing as the 9 seed. And if they had won out, the 8 seed was very much in play for them to overtake the Kings. So this loss dampers that a little bit, considering there's only 5 games remaining. Doesn't change the fact that next Tuesday against the Lakers is a massive, huge game, and that's now just 2 games away. You better believe we're going to be focused largely on that. Might have a 2-parter that evening for that post-game show. But Ryan, man, your thoughts on the playoff chase? What are you feeling, dude? Like, do you think the Warriors have a shot at catching up on any of these teams? Is the 10th seed where destiny is going to place the Warriors? What are your thoughts there, man?
Well, I think they can go for 9th, but I mean, again, by losing tonight, I mean, every time the Warriors lose, they just fall further behind. It's like taking 1 step forward, 2 steps back. I mean, I know they're doing better than that, but that's what it feels like. So I know I'm getting ripped here by some of the comments before, like,
right.
Bad take on my part. I don't think so. I mean, again, like I said, I love Klay Thompson. Don't get me wrong, but he is older, and he's just not the guy that is going to be as good of a clutch shooter as he was when he was, pre-injuries. I mean, as much as he doesn't want to admit his injuries have affected him, they have to some degree. Maybe it makes his shot a little bit more off than it would be. You know what I mean? Because a lot of his times his shots fall short. They don't fall long; they fall short. So, yeah, somebody just made the comments here. A huge deficit loss. I mean, any loss right now is a big deficit.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do?
And I agree with
Adrian.
Adrian.
The Warriors got to win out at this point.
And absolutely. And I agree with Adrian Gutierrez, who writes, I don't understand why Trayce Jackson-Davis was not in the game at the end. I wholeheartedly agree. Again, Daniel Gafford was a menace tonight. I mean, especially with Derek Lively II still out because of injury. He was pretty much their lone center, but he punished the Warriors. And look, Steve Kerr, it sometimes clearly takes him a while to adjust. But one adjustment he's made, which I really like, is the fact that he's now putting Gary Payton II almost like a shadow defender, in the same way that in the NFL, if you sometimes will have these elite cornerbacks who will shadow an opposing team's like top flight wide receiver, regardless of what side of the offensive line the receiver is lined up on. Steve Kerr's using that same philosophy with Gary Payton II, and where Gary Payton II is oftentimes guarding the other team's best player and shadowing him and shadowing his minutes. And we saw that tonight where GP2 was guarding Kyrie Irving a lot, and it was awesome. I mean, it was effective. Kyrie, I thought, should have had a much bigger game. Kyrie played 42 minutes and scored 26 points. I thought that was a win for the Warriors. But you also should have had Trayce Jackson-Davis out there shadowing Daniel Gafford. But Trayce Jackson-Davis played 19 minutes, 44 seconds. Gafford plays 31 minutes and change. Your thoughts on that, man? Do you agree, or did you like the rotations for Steve Kerr?
Well, I will say this. I mean, for the minutes that he played, right, he was 19 minutes, 44 seconds, minus 26 on the plus minus. That's bad. That's really bad. So, obviously, he was getting beat on the court. So, I don't know. What are you going to do? I mean, as other people have mentioned, this is a game that's evident that TJD is still a rookie. And he's learning. And he's going to get better. But, I think the hardest part when you look at this game is, like, they didn't have Luka, and the Warriors fought tough, but they lost a game where Luka wasn't playing, right? And yet they beat them at home when Luka was playing. So, but, Kyrie Irving had some big shots tonight. I mean, that's what it comes down to. The Warriors just got to execute better. I mean, we can sort of go back and forth with, like, who should have played better. I can make the comment about Klay, about the shot, but the bottom line is they didn't get it done. They didn't make plays. It's like a football game, right? What do football players say when they lose the games? We didn't make enough plays. What happened here? The Warriors didn't make enough plays.
Yeah, and again, people like Jennifer Fafford will write, they just won 6 in a row, losing by 2 without Wiggins and Kuminga. Maybe
it's
don't
not an overreaction because – no, and I'm going to say this to Jennifer. Jennifer, it's not an overreaction because they need every win. So, exactly. Yeah, I don't mean to sound mean about it, but you can't afford to lose games, and they did. So that's what's happening.
Exactly. It's right now the playoffs are going on. Ryan, I'll end the show with this.
Yeah.
Really fast. Would you trade Kuminga and Wiggins for Luka Doncic straight up? If you're the Warriors, do you do it? If you're the Mavericks, do you do it?
Wait, so I say again, trade Luka for who again?
Luka for Kuminga and Wiggins.
Why would Dallas make that trade?
Well, I'm just curious. I'm just curious if that's even a trade you entertain.
You're sounding like KNBR callers back like 30 years ago when you're saying,
well, no, I'm just
and Tim Hardaway for Michael Jordan straight up.
I thought of it because those are the marquee players missing for each team. So I'm trying to determine if the Mavericks missing Luka was a much bigger deal than the Warriors missing Wiggins and Kuminga.
No way in hell you trade Luka Doncic. Come on. Bar talk. I'm going to finish
absolutely
my shot
would
of
not trade
tequila just based on that.
Well, all that means is that the Warriors, even though they didn't have Wiggins and Kuminga, should have won this damn game if the Mavericks did not have Luka.
And you like I just took a shot of tequila, right? I just finished my tequila shot right there.
Happy Friday, everyone. Brutal loss. We'll be back at this soon. Ryan, love you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Love you all. That was a brutal loss. We'll be back at this soon. Bye-bye.